welcome to Venture Capital. Another terrible week for the ruble. Has the Russian currency hit the bottom, or is there further to go? Plus, a clean slate for Russian tax avoiders, and the South Stream gets a new direction. That's all on the way. But first of all, it's been quite a week for the ruble, with a terrible start, suffering its biggest one-day fall in 16 years, falling about 9% on Tuesday. Just here, you can see that drop. It did manage to resume, though, by the end of the week, balancing out at around 5% there. Now, most of this decline that you can see is down to the slump in crude oil, the backbone of the economy here, which remains stuck at a 5-year low. And of course, Western sanctions are playing into that too. But what next? Will the Russian currency collapse as it did back in 1998, or will it survive these challenging times? Well, I'm now joined by foreign exchange expert Angus Campbell in London to talk this through. Has the ruble hit the bottom?
If oil continues to fall, that's only going to add to the ruble's problems, and we could see the ruble fall even further. So there's no guarantee that we're at an end to the ruble weakness, although, you know, it has moved a substantial amount. So if oil prices stabilise around mid-60s, $70 a barrel, even if they bounce a little bit, then you know, you would hope to see or expect to see the ruble's decline soften somewhat. You know, we may have reached a floor, but there is a very, very high correlation now between the price of crude and the value of the ruble. So watch the price of oil is probably a very good thing to do if you're exposed to the Russian ruble.
It's safe to presume that the central bank did intervene this week to help out the currency, to shore it up somewhat. Do you think we're going to have more interventions? And what do those interventions tell us about the state of the ruble at the moment? Or, in your professional opinion, is it better to free float it?
Well, certainly, bank intervention is something that we will always see, whether you have a fixed currency or a free float currency. You know, quantitative easing shows that. You know, the Bank of England, back when sterling fell out of the ERM, they were intervening significantly. There's always been central bank interventions, free float or not. So we're going to see that from the Central Bank of Russia as well. You know, they don't want to see the ruble fall out of bed any further, really, because, of course, it's having a serious effect on inflation in the economy. And that comes at a time when, of course, oil prices are plummeting, so you would expect inflation to be falling. But, you know, the huge devaluation that the ruble has suffered from has really caused inflation to spike there.
Yes, because, of course, inflation is now expected to reach some 9%.
That's mainly because of the currency devaluation. Now, the move to free float makes sense because Russia is it's part of the global economy. It's a very large economy, a diverse economy. Of course, it is still very heavily reliant on energy, but, you know, there's a lot of foreign investment in Russia. So it makes sense to move towards the free float currency, and they're slowly but surely doing that. At the same time, the central bank will continue to intervene, and as we've seen over the course of history, central banks do look to try and protect their currencies if they move too far in terms of appreciating too much or depreciating too much.
OK, Angus Campbell, FX Pro, thank you very much. President Putin announced amnesty for all capital funds returning to Russia. This comes a month after signing an anti-offshore bill curbing capital flight. So the deal is, for Russians that have been holding cash abroad, bring it back just once and let that be the end of it. So will they? And if they do, how could this affect the Russian economy? Well, I'm now joined by Ben Aries, Business New Europe editor in Moscow. Hi there, Ben. Good to see you. So, do tell me, will these mysterious people, will they bring their billions, their millions, back to Russia?
Yes, definitely some. I mean, the experience of these tax amnesties or capital amnesties is that there are a lot of people who would like to bring their money back in a white way so that it's not in danger of being seized. and then use it to invest in the domestic economy. So in the past, I mean, other countries that have gone down this road, like Kazakhstan, have had several tax amnesties, and they always bring in large amounts of money. The key question is exactly how much money it will bring. Now, of course, you have to remember that capital flight in Russia has been running around $50 billion like every year for the last 20 years. And in the 90s, the numbers were even higher. So there is an enormous pool of money overseas. And the real question is, like, what sort of opportunities do Russians who have this money overseas see in Russia, and whether they want to bring it back and make use of it within the country? That's an open question, but I think we're probably looking at, hundreds, if not tens of billions of dollars, maybe even more.
Is it wise to bring money back to Russia now, though?
Well, there's various things going on. I mean, on the one hand, the economy is sort of grinding along at a very slow rate. And so the opportunity for investment maybe is not the most attractive. Having said that, we've seen a pickup in industry since the financial sanctions were imposed, and also the import ban on European goods. There's been a huge uptick in agriculture. So there are good investment opportunities in those sectors. At the other hand, there's the de-offshorization, this horribly worded bill, where the Kremlin is making it clear that it doesn't like Russian entities, big entities, holding their assets overseas, and it's pushing companies to bring the money back home. So there's sort of a political prerogative there for companies to maybe repatriate some of their money for political reasons. So, if they don't do it, they could face some heat. And it might be wise to bring large amounts of money back onshore in order to keep, the Kremlin off your back.
And do you think Putin knows who these people are?
Yes and no. I think they is actually everybody, in so much as one of the interesting things that came out of the crisis in Cyprus was the diversity of the amount of Russians that were holding accounts there. And it's not just the oligarchs. We've got medium-sized business. We've actually got, individuals who had accounts in Cyprus and holding their savings there. Because Russia, you have to remember, has an open capital account. It's the only major emerging market where it's completely no restriction. You can move your money inside or outside, same day, without any difficulties, any registration, any capital controls whatsoever. And people took advantage of that because, they didn't trust the Russian banking sector. It's been unstable in the past. Having said that, as I say, capital flights was a feature of the Russian economy for 2 decades. And so people have been taking opportunity to move their capital overseas. And really it's up in the air now whether, exactly how much they'll bring back and who will do it. We'll have to see.
Ben Ayres, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you. The South Stream has been cancelled, at least as far as Russia is concerned anyway. Tired of waiting for EU approval, President Putin said the pipeline will now be redirected to Turkey and Greece and not through Bulgaria. Now, the reroute comes as Russia did not want to construct and spend billions on a pipe the EU doesn't want. Now, the whole point of the project is to avoid future supply disruptions through Ukraine, a problem that's happened in the past. But now, the European Commission President has insisted the project will go ahead and accused Russia of holding Bulgaria to ransom. So it's incredibly complicated. I have no doubt it's going to get even more so. We are going to follow it as it develops. Now, talking about Europe, it was that time of the month again. All ears pinned to ECB President Mario Draghi, his every single word. But borrowing costs will be kept at record lows, despite pressure from Washington to enforce stimulus and warnings from Germany not to, for fear that it will encourage reckless borrowing. So for now, Fed-style quantitative easing, also adopted by Bank of Japan, Bank of England as well, is being held off. For now, that is, of course. All right, we're going to kick off corporate news with Germany. In fact, actually, a German company in Russia. Now, Mercedes is in negotiations to start producing cars in Russia. Germany's car maker is hoping to do so in order to reduce costs and compete with its main rivals. Those are BMW and Audi, already assembling vehicles inside the country. Despite the decline in the Russian car market, Mercedes sales have grown by 12% so far this year. Finnish dairy company Valio is also going to start producing cheese and butter in Russia. The company intends to double its total production volume in the country Before the food embargo, the company was sending 20% of its production here. Russia's Aeroflot budget air carrier Victory has finally conducted its first commercial flight from Moscow to Volgograd. The airline will start daily flights from Moscow to Yekaterinburg, Samara, Perm, Belgorod, Tyumen and Surgut. This comes at a time when air ticket prices across the country will be hiked 12.5%. That's due to the ruble's dramatic fall. This will apply only to international flights, though. As a consequence, demand for air tickets for New Year's has fallen 30%. Let's go and see what Tim has been up to on the business desk. You are always busy. Electricity this time. What happened?
Yes, greetings, Katie. Interrow paid off big. Their 39 power plants, thermal power plants, 13 hydropower plants, and 2 wind power plants equaled an increase of about 3.5%, which is about $760.
Wow.
So, yes.
Not bad. That's pretty cool. Well done.
Yes, the folks here in the business department say that that's probably due to the fact that the ruble is getting cheaper, and it's kind of that China effect of having a cheap currency makes things cheaper to do, so they're doing very well.
So it's got its positives. It sucks in a lot of ways, but it's got its positives.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned before in the program, it's really bad for people who want to take a vacation because it's harder to, it's more expensive, and it's bad for my student loans, which are in dollars. But for companies like this, and especially for manufacturing, it's great.
Yeah, and exporters are loving it too.
Wow.
So.
Well, let's see who we're going to invest in next week. I'm hoping it's going to be Lukoil because I was right next to a Lukoil plant. Nope, not Lukoil. It will be the Magnet, or Magnit as they say in Russian, which is a massive retail chain. There's one right by where I live. So
it's not the character from X-Men.
No.
Supermarket.
Not connected. In fact, they don't even have a mascot. It would be kind of fun if they had a Magnet Man mascot. So.
He was really scary, wasn't he? In his helmet. And he controls all metals. He was
any
a scary
man
guy.
in red spandex is scary on multiple levels, Katie.
Oh, I'm thinking, let's get you in red spandex for the end of year show. Let's do it. Okay, Tim Kirby, well done to you. Congratulations, you made money. Goodbye. So there we have it, Tim Kirby in red spandex. Woo, exciting stuff. All right then. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. I will be on Twitter in the meantime, so join me then. Goodbye.